Oh, I know what it was when you're ready.
Okay, I think we're all set up.
Ooh.
Amazing. What is the question?
Just there's an update to my bio. I
Okay.
changed jobs since I since I sent you guys my information. Um, you can either leave off the sentence about where I am working, or I can give you a replacement. It's up to you.
Whichever one you would prefer, I can easily edit that both ways.
Oh, okay. Well, so I am now visiting assistant professor of creative writing
All right.
at Moravian University. And I don't know, do you want me to spell it for you?
That would be lovely.
It's Morav like Victor, IAN like Nancy, University.
University.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I should have I
Absolutely.
should
No,
have looked into
that's great.
that. Yeah.
Okay. All updated. I'll go ahead and toss that in the live stream.
Thank you. And it seems like maybe hopefully we'll still have a few more people joining us. But I guess
Yeah,
if people are watching through the live stream, we wouldn't see them update in um the waiting room, right?
absolutely. And
Right.
it takes people a while to trickle through. We also will have some readings where, there's 15, 20 people in the Zoom. And then after the fact, there's like a couple of engagements, or we had a reading a couple weeks ago where it was a less populous Zoom
Mhm.
and like 3,000 people watched the reading.
Oh
So
my
like
goodness. Wow.
it ebbs and flows,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
certainly people trickle in definitely after 7 o'clock. It's not very.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm not worried about that. And then are you gonna be, I guess, can people put questions into the Facebook, I guess the Facebook page as well? Or
Yeah.
if they want to ask questions, they should pop into the Zoom, or what do
So
you
they'll
prefer?
have full availability to stay on the
Okay.
Facebook side if they want, or join
Okay.
the Zoom. They can leave questions through the
Okay.
Facebook if they want to also head out, if they have to head out. But I can send that to where they can come later to see if you answered a question.
Okay.
But regardless, I'll pull anything that comes from the Facebook into the
Great.
Zoom unless someone else
Wonderful.
specifies. Are you
Thank you.
ready to admit people?
I am whenever you are ready.
SJ, my counterpart, also sends her regrets because
Oh,
she
it's
has
okay.
COVID right now
Oh, poor
as of
SJ.
today.
Right.
So
Well, please.
prayers out to SJ.
Yes, exactly. Please send my best wishes for sure. So, and thank you for people who are able to join us tonight. So appreciate it. I have to say this is the comfiest Sunday night reading I've been at in a while. So that's lovely. Hopefully everybody is surviving the holiday season or the wind up to the holiday season. Adeline and I were just talking about how everybody is sick, which is the only thing that I can think of that's like maybe good about that is maybe we'll all be better in a few weeks. Here's hoping. Good evening, Sid. Oh, and good evening, Jenny, too. Sorry, I just Sid popped on the screen. So
Obviously, I'm right. So you gotta say hi to me.
hi, hi.
I'm the only other person you see. That's why you say hi.
No, it's all good.
This is my first time with this whole pajama poetry thing. So I'm like, I found it,
Awesome.
and
Well,
like,
welcome. I'm so excited for you to be here. And I'm honored that you would come for the very first time tonight. Um, I was just saying I forgot completely that it is the first night of Hanukkah. So I know that some people have family commitments, etc. So again, I'm so glad that you could join us. All right. We are So I know if this is your first night, Sid, is there something you're hoping to hear in particular?
So no, I've been trying to
Okay.
connect with Sundress.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I was just interviewed for one of the internships.
Congrats. Oh, very
And
exciting.
so
Yeah.
as I was kind of like running around, I'm like pajamas and poetry. I could get into that. I was like, I'm gonna go check this out and see what kind of cool stuff this place is all about.
Sounds
So.
good. Well, I have to say, I am very pleased with every contact I've ever had with Sundress. I have nothing but wonderful things to say. And of course, yes, of course. And I feel very lucky that they are willing to entertain me, being a few states away. I'm outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. So it's always nice to kind of expand my sphere of poetry. And I always say that like writers and poets are my people, wherever I go. It's not always I mean, I write about it a little bit in my poems, you'll see in a couple minutes, but I have not always had the easiest time kind of fitting in spheres because I'm come from like a mixed background, etc. But writers and poets are always, no matter what, no matter age, race, class, gender, anything, right? There's always something to connect over. So anyway, I see some of my buds here in the Zoom. Hi, Susan. Hi, Brophy.
It is now 7:05, so we will get started. If folks continue to come through, I'll admit them as they do. But Liz, if you're all ready.
I am.
Liz Chang was the 2012 Montgomery County Poet Laureate in Pennsylvania. Her poems have appeared in Verse Daily, Rock and Sling, Origins Journal, Breakwater Review, and Stoneboat Literary Journal, among others. Her first essay was recently published in Oyster River Pages. Her fiction is forthcoming from Opia. She is currently a visiting assistant professor of creative writing at Moravian University. Please welcome Liz Chang.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again, everybody, for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I know we were saying a couple of minutes ago, people have family commitments tonight. Also, I guess I'm a few hours behind the World Cup, which is probably a good thing for poetry. But anyway, it's so lovely to be here tonight to read. So thank you again for spending your Sunday evening with me. And hopefully I will make it through without having to like cough really hard in your ear. If I have to cough, I'll just like mute for a second. That's why I'm wearing the headset as well. I am getting over something, so I apologize in advance. So I am gonna start with this one. Hi, because it's the opening to a collection, my slightly older collection from 2018, and it always feels like a kind of a reading opener. So this one is called A Herd of Elephants is Sometimes Called a Memory. And it's dedicated for A, who once alleged I remember too much of him. If our knowing of each other were an earthly thing, it would be dappled elephant hide, ancient pachyderm skin stretched taut across mud-cured footpads to receive tiny seismic seizures like tender pen taps, calls to rejoin the herd so low they rumble unheard past any human. I know that your marriage is dying. I wish to have language strong enough to carve away the sorrow, to mourn together and so low that only we can hear it. And thank you. And the next one is actually one that I often reference with my students because sometimes when you tell creative writing students in particular that you write, they'll sometimes ask questions that are well, for me, kind of impossible to answer, right? But one of the questions that often comes up is like, how long does it take to write a poem? And I mean, that's an unanswerable question in my mind in the first place. But I often talk about this poem, which is called Postcard to His Wife, because I started writing it in graduate school and I like worked it and worked it and worked it. And I'm someone who writes like 47 drafts of something, you know, on my computer, I have like draft 42, 43, 40, you know, and then like 5 or 6 years into working on this poem, I think it was 6 years, I was walking along the beach in Key West and I looked down and I was like, that's the image that I need for my poem. So I brought the image in. There's a Portuguese man of war in this poem, and it all of a sudden snapped into the poem that I've like always wanted it to be. And I can't even really tell you why, but this is the 6-year poem. It's called Postcard to His Wife. How long he kept your name for himself. The sea reaches for the smooth breast of the shore and turns away. Now the ocean comes back to me in all my poems. Here the wind whirls your name into crescendo, where we lay awake in sandy arsenals. He talked about moving inland. I must have laughed. Now the pipers pick over the man of war, washed of his armor and shuddering plum dye, all that is left of this cup of new Narcissus, who was a fool to have settled for the pond when he could have run into the sea, embracing hundreds of mollusk admirers who might die and rot and still call after him. They pine for their first love down to chiseled bone. I wished I'd been a monument when I heard him say, I've met someone. Instead, I read and reread the indictment of the tide, slapping the stage shore, wishing to grow gills and drown kissing air. Then you could cut along my ribs and pry me open, find flecks of mercury winking to know that he had flown. And the next one I kind of threw into, thank you. I threw into the lineup. It is I write these like weird love poems for my husband, and I have another one that I'll tell you later about. But this one I is maybe the closest I've ever had to a persona poem. I kind of make myself into Zelda Fitzgerald, although the title is called I May Still Be Your Zelda. And my husband is a big fan of Zelda, the video game. So for a long time, that's the Zelda he thought I was referencing. So, you know, either way, right? So this is called I May Still Be Your Zelda. I think you love my half-life each time it folds in upon itself and unleashes a new rough face, the automatic compactor of memory inside me, crushing everything. Appropriated elegies still ache, purpling in my poet brain. How I cling to you when I wake from brittle nightmares with the push of the coaster car pulling into the locks once more. Yanked back to land atop the Ferris wheel at the Fireman's Fair, I did not know one place could contain so much suffering. Our life, a study in simultaneous contrast. Two colors stand next to each other, their similarities magnified. You see the violet in my red, and I see the blue in your brown confidence, certainty suspended inside your words like salt in saline. It permeates the shelter of the car, that planetarium of want. I remember the Carolina sky with you, hole punched into confetti, and breathe out. We paint the nursery lemon verbena and contemplate the lavender wash of the empty fields, of the sanitarium and surrender. How lucky we will be to have our very own Scotty, mascot of the normal life everyone lusts after. And again, this is, I'm going to say like the last of kind of the throwback poems. This one is called Living in a Basement After Paradise. And I actually haven't read this one in quite a while, but for some reason it rose to the top when I was thinking about tonight. So like I said, living in a basement after paradise. If I speak against the dead, I must skirt your longing for the slip of mortal mantle from your shoulders. You bow your heads and go through sorting, cracked and twisted settings, broken plates to be placed back into the cabinet after a portion of rice and fish. So if we found you'd gone, there would be no crumbs, just closed drawers and the lace tablecloth draped, hanging lopsided as hastily as I laid it for a picnic 2 years ago, smiling. Boxes stand sealed, canopic jars of evidence preserved between pages of tax timetables. We were other people once, receptacles of your past beautiful life, as you too bear mummification in this, the Pharaoh's tomb. Oh, and I forgot to say, canopic jars are those things that they used to pull organs out of mummies and store them in the jars. That's the piece of trivia that goes into that poem. So I said a minute ago, I tend to really write a lot more sad poems than I do happy poems. But this is one of those weird love poems that, like I mentioned, and it is perhaps my attempt to be funny. And it's really hard to be funny in poetry, but we'll see. This one is called Love as a Chicken. Sometimes I envy couples who are mistaken for siblings, but I've found now love that if their love is the backyard hen, then ours is the extraordinary mille-fleur Belgian barbou, her rust-colored body adorned with the confused faces of epoxied African violets. Our love defies her evolutionary improbability with crested ludicrousness. Although she may startle those expecting the ordinary chicken, once she struts a few steps, they relent, acknowledging her innate pulchritude. After some quick staccato bobs of her head, they forget they saw anything at all peculiar, and she can and does return to her scratch work. To say, I'm always begging my husband for backyard chickens. We have a hive of honeybees, but I think chickens are kind of where he draws the line. But I have a chicken poem that I dedicated to him. It's almost like he owes me chickens, right? All right, so this one starts with an I always forget the term. I think it's epigraph. The opening, I know it's not epitaph, right? It's definitely not epitaph, but the opening kind of quote from somebody else. And it actually comes from an author named Sharon Chang, who is, of course, no relation. There are a lot of Changs. There are a lot of us, right? But she wrote this article on the Hyphen blog about a conversation that she had with her 4-year-old multiracial son. And this opening bit comes from her. Apparently the little boy said, "Mom, am I white?" When I told him no, he immediately followed up with, "Am I black?" When I told him he wasn't, he started crying and told me, "But I want a color too." So this is called First Colors. Baby, what you are is every color. The best parts of your yellow-white mama, and her white is really blue and red and green and red and white and red and just red, but we can all agree that makes white. And your orange-green plaid daddy. When others ask you what color you are, you may say plaid, orange, green, yellow, white, red, 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 blue, green, white. Or you can just say you are the star of the plumeria as it yawns open to white, the arcing red ochre green of the stem. You are also the rust of the lichen on sandstone grave markers, the shade of many feet walking across the fecund earth. If your audience still isn't placated, as some will never be, you can say, at night I am the red moon and sky for deserving sailors. By morning, I am usually new. In February, I am moon pies. Sometimes I am the rare blue moon. Sometimes I am strange, even to myself. And I am going to move to the new manuscript. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just seeing the emojis pop up as I look back onto the screen. And so the next the last few, I guess, are from my new manuscript, which is called Museum of Things. And I always joke that this is like me turning my terrible habit of hoarding into poetry, right? I have a house full of things that, like, I look at these objects, and to anybody else, they're like, you know, a broken rice cooker, etc., right? But to me, they have the stories of like the people that gave them to me, where they came from, right? And so each one of these objects in this manuscript has like a museum tag, almost like you would see in a gallery. So it would have like the artist name and the title, and then like a short description and like where it came from, and even like an acquisition number. And so those are the titles of these poems. So then the poem itself is kind of the story behind the piece. So I'm not going to read all of the tag, just because, you know, gets a little monotonous. But you know, I'll read the salient parts. So this one is called The Gift of Horseradish, and it is a poured glass bottle, embossed Pierre Smirnoff label in red, white, and gold. And it's a gift from the Ludmila Foster collection. Maybe she was out of practice giving gifts, but I cannot imagine what moved my mother's Russian aunt to bring my temperate parents' horseradish vodka, except to share a piece of her irrecoverable self. It outlived her presence in their house. My father, so tired of the balks of visiting vodka drinkers, he scrawled horseradish 3 times in Sharpie on the embossed label in his neat hand. On my mother-in-law's first visit to my parents' home, she ran her fingers across the label's marred face and whispered, "What a shame, that's a collector's item." And I didn't know if I was meant to hear her. And just like I said, the collection is called Museum of Things. So I have this piece that I call the perfect bathing suit of forgery, you know, because sometimes museums have forgeries on the wall. And this is actually like, I mean, all of this is true, right? But the part in this poem that is particularly true is that when I was in college, I was dating a guy who interned at Access Hollywood. And so we went to a pool party at that Billy Bush's house. And for a long time, I was very convinced that I had left my bathing suit at his house by accident, because I like changed in the powder room. And by the way, he did have a full length mirror in his powder room, which is a very strange thing, I think. But you know, so thanks, Aslan, for the thumbs up. It just, you know, but I guess you know, celebrities live differently than I do, right? So this is called The Perfect Bathing Suit of Forgery. Ivory one-piece bandeau style bathing suit with front center ruching beginning at bodice, Delphina tag, size large, 80% nylon, 20% lycra, provenance unknown. I found my perfect suit when I was in college, a marble white one-piece with a ruched neckline and legs cut to hug my curves just right. A Marilyn Monroe number, but not sad Marilyn, naked and bloated as a discarded fish on the deck of a boat. Early Norma Jean. I believed myself transformed inside this white suit, white shell. So un-Marilyn in my darkness. Maybe I imagined my bathing body on retro travel posters for Hawaii, my father's home state. But even that, a lie. My family of import-export children from a grocery store line. I wore this perfect suit once to a TV famous actor's beach house, willed myself to belong, committed to feeling at home on a sun-washed lounger. At the end of the day, in his swanky powder room, I peeled away my Hollywood, avoided the full-length mirror looking back. This must be how beautiful people live, an opportunity to gaze at perfection in every room. Illusion crushed, I stuffed the perfect suit into the very bottom of my bag. When I got home, just empty space. Years later, I pull a pearly exoskeleton from the corner of a last look before donation box. The aged nylon crunches in my hands, the elastic of each leg hole creaking like crepidation. I think back to the summer in my childhood when I found perfectly perched cicada skins still clinging valiantly under the white flower shade of our dogwood tree. How I crushed them between curiously forlorn fingertips. It is hard to believe that a warm, living thing once smoothly filled this architecture, that she is gone. I think I will end there. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
was just wonderful. Oh my.
Thank you. Yeah.
We'll move into a brief Q&A.
Sure.
If folks have questions that they would like to ask, you can throw them into the little box down below, or you can raise your hand and ask yourself. We can give a couple minutes to allow hands to raise or messages to enter the little chat box. But I would like to kick us off with a question that has kind of been stewing the longer you read. I always love it when someone is able to write, mini poems without using and, just different ways of conjoining ideas.
Mhm.
And it was this, like, that was one thing that jumped out to me, like, man, like this language is just so rich with image. And then there was alliteration, and it's like, it's not exactly like a new confessionalism, it's not exact imagism, it's like it. And then what kind of recalled to me was your forthcoming prose, and I was like, each of these sentences, if it could start like, it is so rich with narrative. And I wonder if through your process you thought about those narratives a bit linearly, like how a lot of these are stories and those adjectives kind of swell as you recall, or if that all kind of comes later, if you're like, oh, I'll just like, ooh, that's a fun word in there.
Interesting that you should ask, because I initially, when I started this series, I thought they were like micro essays. And at the time, I like wrote like 3 of them kind of on a whim. I have this wonderful workshop group that I go to usually every month, although I've been absent this semester because of my teaching schedule, but I'll be back in January. And these poets that I just like trust with my life, right? But they're poets, and I like brought these micro essays being like, I don't know, guys, if you want to look at this, but this is what I had to show you this month, right? And they were like, these are poems. And I was like, really? Are you sure? And then, yes. So it's funny that you can kind of see the ghosts in my work. So I think in general, I do kind of straddle both worlds. I was a poet first, and now I'm kind of moving into this world of prose. And I've always really enjoyed reading prose. And I would say, especially creative nonfiction. And I would say right now I'm doing a lot of that because I am commuting and I love audiobooks. But poetry is kind of hard in audiobook form. It doesn't work as well as I would like it to. So I think that's part of it too, is just like the prose kind of thinking is seeping into. It's sometimes hard for me to tell. I will often sit down with some idea of the form that something is going to take, but I've also found that there are poems that I've tried for years to write, and now they're coming out as prose pieces because they never quite worked as poems. And I think the opposite is also kind of true. Like whatever, eventually the idea kind of finds its form. You hope, we hope, right? Anything else? Anybody want? I know it's Sunday night, so it's.
Can I ask a question?
Sid. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have kids, but I've been an educator for about 20 years. I teach junior high school English.
Wow, you're very brave.
Yeah, the idea of unanswerable questions, especially as identity comes in such a more fluid state, and they want to, and then I was like, A, I'm still looking for that answer. And B, I'm pretty sure I would get fired if I gave an honest response anyway. Right, so I'm right. What exactly do I'm like, is there a hotline? Who do I call? Like, what am I allowed to say? Like, but I really loved the way you sort of like poemed that idea and that conversation. It was really just sort of beautiful and like brave, of like honesty and love there. And I find that really amazing. And so I'm going to sort of like sandwich that like praise with like a selfish question.
Please go ahead.
So like I'm in my 4th semester of my MFA. So this is my thesis semester. And last semester, I was an intern at Red Hen Press, which is a press in Pasadena.
Yes, yes.
With Kate Gale, she was my mentor.
Awesome.
And so like, and through a couple, like I've really sort of like thrown myself out there, and I've gotten some sort of like grounding a little bit. And I'm really not sure what to do with it or like how to move forward productively. Because I'm like, it'll be like 3 a.m. and I'll like email my coordinator being like, my mind's on fire, so I'm emailing you. And like some people are so patient because I'm sure they're tired of me. But like what can you remember like where that space for you, or like what advice would you give to like writers trying to like emerge and like respectively like try to find a place at the table, you know?
Well, I think you're doing all the right things in terms of like trying to, like you said, trying to put yourself out there, trying to like look at different, like get different perspectives, you know, like you said, interning at like Red Hen, and you also mentioned you're interested in Sundress, right? Like just kind of seeing how the poetry world works, right? But also I think it's a balance ultimately. And you know, again, I'm going to kind of sidestep again with the unanswerable question, right? And say that, you know, at the end of the day, like we're all always faced with a blank page every single time we sit down to write anything, right? And like the thing that I tell my students is that like I'm a little bit farther down this path than you. Maybe I have a little bit more practice like wrestling with that blank page, but like every time I sit down, it's always terrifying, right? And on some level, I don't have any guarantee that everything that I've done up until this moment even will inform the next thing that I do. So I think of writing as like a craft or a journey, right? More than like a destination. And so again, going back to your question, so this idea of like learning from as many people that you can possibly learn from, but also kind of protecting at the same time that thing that is yours, right? Because, and again, I don't think that you're in danger of this in particular, but the thing that I tell students is like, you're not trying to be somebody else, right? Like the reason you are a writer is because you have something to say, right? And so really coming out of, you know, any writing program or putting together any of your own work, it's about like trying to like filter out the noise sometimes and just get quiet and like listen to your own instincts, right? And that has, I mean, I don't know if that's like even really qualifies as advice, right? But that's the only thing that I can say that has really led me to where I am, right? It's just kind of keeping open to things, but also listening to myself in the end. So in terms of practical advice coming out of an MFA, I would definitely say get yourself a workshop of people you can trust. That was the big change. I mean, and probably you do have that, and hopefully maybe you even have it with, you know, people in your class, in your graduating class. I have been very fortunate. Where are you doing your MFA?
So it's remote through Omaha,
Nice.
Nebraska.
Nice.
But
Awesome.
I'm in New Orleans.
Right. Yeah, I did a low residency program as well. So,
I love the program. It's been a great program.
That's fantastic. So yeah, and I would say that the low residency style kind of has the plus is that you have like national, sometimes international contacts. The maybe not so plus is if you wanted to have like a sit down workshop kind of situation, it's much tougher because you maybe don't have the like in your backyard contacts that you might if you had like moved for a program. But you know, everybody is more used to being on Zoom these days. So I now do multiple workshops on Zoom. So, you know.
Yeah, I have residency twice a year. So my winter residency is coming up. So I'm excited about that.
Well, good luck to you in Nebraska in the winter.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Awesome. I went to Vermont, so it's, you know, it's right up there too in terms of oof. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Sid. That was so much lovely information too. I feel like a lot of people can benefit from that.
Hopefully.
Also, Susan Ray asks, how did you come up with the idea of chickens equals marriage?
Thank you, Susan. I don't, well, this is again where I have to reveal a little bit of my past lives. So as an undergraduate, I was a fashion design major, and I did my senior thesis at Parsons School of Design, inspired by exotic chickens. So they have always kind of been interesting to me. I don't know. I mean, I actually have, I'm looking at, I have a portrait of an exotic chicken just off screen. I think more so the idea was this, this sense of kind of like, who I saw in my life as like the couples, right? The, you know, like the picture perfect, etc. And then I was like, but sometimes it's okay to be like this crazy, wild, like, you know, Millefleur Belgian Barbu. And by the way, that was from the actual chicken, I don't know, species or title or whatever. That came from a Craigslist ad for somebody was selling this chicken. And I was like, what is it? Yeah. And it actually did have like this weird pattern on its coat, etc. So I don't think I have a good answer for you, Susan, I have to say. But it was just kind of stuff that was swirling all in my mind at once. And one of my writing mentors, who unfortunately passed away this past year, but I worked with him at VCFA, Ralph Angel, used to say that there are no metaphors, right? Things just are. And so I think that was a thing that for me just was. So a little bit of a dangerous view into my brain for a minute. And oh, so sorry, Ona has a question in the chat. Can I answer that quickly before? Okay. So Ona says, are the poems in the new collection lineated? Yes, although I have to say they are many of them are very, very long lines. And they have that clump at the beginning that kind of looks like the museum tag. But if you are concerned about accessibility, I am happy to share a copy of the manuscript with you separately, hopefully in a way that would be accessible. And then, Aslan, are you okay with me taking Jenny's? Sorry, I just have the chat open.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So Jenny says, I'd love to hear about your revision process and or some revision techniques that you especially love. This is also one where I have to say, probably my answer is not as helpful as it could be. I am just always open to experimentation when it comes to, and maybe that comes from kind of like my art life. You know, again, I often take like pretty early drafts to this workshop where, you know, we've now been working together for, I think we just passed our 11th year that we've been working together. And so, yeah, so it's definitely people who like get me and get what I'm trying to do. And oftentimes I'll just bring them something and be like, is this the thing? Is this something? And they will usually see their way through it quicker than I will. But then as soon as I get feedback, you know, again, you know, it's tough because it's not writing by committee, right? You do have to kind of sort through the things that will be most useful in terms of revision, but I am also willing to just try stuff and see how it comes out. Again, because of probably the visual art background, I'm very much somebody who likes to have like the way it looks on the page support what I'm trying to do. So oftentimes I'll mess around with kind of how it looks on the page in order to kind of get that experience for the reader before anything else. But then, like I said, I will just try stuff that people suggest and, you know, save a million billion drafts on my computer. And, you know, if something stops working, I can like go back, I can like trace, you know, they're like the breadcrumbs on my hard drive. I can trace my way back and, you know, go back to an earlier version. But one thing that I think has only really worked for me once, but one time when people ask me about revision, I usually bring up the story. There was a poem that I was really struggling to write, and it was actually during my MFA. And I was like, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to see what happens with this poem. I sat down and wrote it every day for a week from scratch. And and sometimes because it's day to day, right? You're kind of remembering like what was good that happened the day before, but you're really trying not to like write to those lines. It's kind of like the kill your darlings thing, right? You're trying to maybe have similar moments, but not exactly the same as what happened the day before. And then at the end of the week, I finally got to a place where I was like, oh yeah, like it was almost like I chiseled it in my brain into what I wanted it to be, or what it eventually ended up being. So that's something you could try if you want to torture yourself. Go ahead and try that. You're welcome.
And we are at our time. Thank you everyone for coming, and for those tuned in on the Facebook live stream, thank you as well. Liz Chang, wonderful poet extraordinaire. Thank you for your time. You can find in the chat a little bio and information about where to contact Liz, or not where to contact Liz, but Liz publications. If you would like to, is there a website that people can?
It's easy to remember. It's lizchangpoet.com. And there are all sorts of ways to get a hold of me from there. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And tune in on January 7th, I believe, for Carrie Nassif. That'll be our next reading. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah, everyone, if you practice. And we will see you soon.
Sounds good. Have a great night. Bye-bye.